North Alabama School for Organizers presents Fireside Chats, intersectional education through interviews with the organizations and people making real change right now. Listen, learn, and organize with Nassau and Fireside Chats.
You know, the Black Panther Party had a vision. Our vision was, and it was always changing because we read so much and we were taught that nothing stands outside of change. Everything is in a constant state of flux, is what Huey taught. And so we were always changing and always adapting. We never were the same organization that we were 2 years prior. You know, we were always evolving. And I think that's one of the things that young people today have to understand, that things are always evolving, and you always have to be able to change and be able to evolve as things are changing to meet and continue moving your program forward.
And of course, I've been a lifetime activist, and one of the co-founders of the Young Patriots and the Rainbow Coalition. And we've had an opportunity to work in several occasions together. I think the last time we were together, Aaron, was at your 50th anniversary of your chapter in Washington, in Seattle. And we all got together with that. And I just want to know if you could just tell us a little bit about, what you're doing and some of your background, and maybe a little bit about your book.
Well, first of all, a correction. I was a captain.
Captain? Okay.
First chapter outside the state of California.
Okay.
Yeah, my book, My People Are Rising, is it's about my family history, as well as about the time that I spent in the Black Panther Party. And I have been almost on a virtual book tour from 2012 to about 2017. And I just finished my second book a couple of months ago, and I just got a notice from a publisher that they were interested in publishing it. It's going to be titled Journey Through the Black Underground. So most of my time is spent writing and working with young people and traveling and speaking. I've been working with some of the organizers of the movement in Seattle over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I've also worked with some of the people here in Albuquerque, Seattle, some of the organizers as well. So that's pretty much what I've been doing, mostly writing and speaking and traveling.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you did with the Panthers?
The first 4 years, from 68 till 72, we began to organize in Seattle. And Washington State was one of the places where they had an open carry policy. So we exercised our right to carry our weapons out in the open. And just as they passed state legislation in Oakland, keep the Panthers Oakland from carrying their weapons, they did the same thing in Seattle in 1969. So we began to organize, and we started our first street breakfast program in 1969, I believe. We opened up our first free medical clinic in 1969 as well, which is still open. So most of our time was, implementing our survival programs. We had a busing the prisons program, and free shoe program, clothing program, and a free grocery giveaway once a week. So all these activities kept us quite busy. In 1969, we got word that the FBI was planning on raiding our office. And so we prepared for that, for fortifying our facilities with sandbags and steel and fortified doors and so on. And we prepared, prepared ourselves to face the enemy. The FBI ATF went to Chicago on December 4th and murdered Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. And the ATF went to LA about 6 days later to conduct a similar raid on the LA chapter, but they were prepared for that. And they had a shootout that lasted for 6-7 hours. And after they left LA, they came to Seattle and met with the mayor in order to prepare to launch a similar raid on the Seattle chapter. Unfortunately, the mayor stood up against them and told them that he would not allow them to raid our office. And they were going to come in and kill us like they did in Chicago and like they had planned in LA. So we're very fortunate that Mayor Wes Ullman stood up and did not allow the FBI and the ATF to use the support from the Seattle Police Department. So that was a very key moment for us. So the mayor, unfortunately, when he went back to the mayor's convention in DC, he was met at the door by John Ehrlichman and told that he was not welcomed in because he didn't follow the orders of Richard Nixon. Okay. So, that was a defining moment. In 1972, we sent most of our comrades down to Oakland. We left a skeleton crew in Seattle, but most of us went down to Oakland and began to work towards building a base of operation in Oakland, California.
Okay. You said you still have some programs going in Seattle, right? That's lasted all these years?
Yeah, the Carolyn Downs Clinic is still open. That's the clinic. We opened up the clinic in '69. It was, at that time, it was called the, I can't remember, but yeah, the Carolyn Downs Clinic is still open today. It's been open for 50 years.
Wow. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
I know when I was out there for your 50th and I had the honor of speaking there and Chuck, you and I and Chuck and others were there and it was just a phenomenal program and, quite very well attended.
Yes.
And still very respected, in Seattle at this time. And I joke sometimes saying, back then they were trying to kill us and now they're trying to get us on their TV shows.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible how times have changed, but they could reverse themselves again. With everything that's going on in this country today. Did you ever have to fight any, say white supremacists at that time out there?
Yeah, there were different times when we had some confrontations with them. But
yeah,
for the most part, they kept a distance from us.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You had quite a reputation. I know in Chicago we were fighting white supremacists, and the police and just practically everybody else. But you've done a great job out there. And Chuck, can you give us just a little bit about your background and what you're up to?
I first heard about the Young Patriots long ago. I was born in a country setting. I worked my life doing a lot of hard jobs, and I went to school early, got married early, and eventually I went to University of Oregon, where I taught courses on racism, American culture, and then by that time, the Patriots were a chapter in Eugene. We worked with the Black Panther Party chapter. We did a free breakfast for children program, and we did other things together. So I just eventually we got the attention of the police and the right wingers, and the COINTELPRO eventually busted me, and I got 10 years in prison for possessing a sawed-off shotgun that was 1/4 inch too short. So I went to prison for a while, and the Patriots, it was a good group to be with because we had a certain reputation already. So when I got to prison, I got to know other people. That's where I began to meet Aaron Dixon and Elmer and his brothers. They came out when we had a major work strike at McNeil Island Prison, and they came and protested with us, and it was a big deal. I can hear somebody now. Can you still hear me? I'm talking.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anyway, I went to Marion Prison and spent some time there in the days when it was pretty dangerous, and a prison that was it was full of different kinds of groups. My Young Patriots group and was a different type of group compared to some of the other people in there. So anyway, I went through a lot of that. I got out, and I didn't go back to college anymore. I just couldn't do I was a PhD candidate. And I helped run the medical clinic there and did some other things. So I wrote about this in my book, Odyssey of a Mother Country Radical. Kind of summed it up in a long way because I learned a lot of things inside. And when I got out, I was a heavy weightlifter and really done a lot of heavy lifting. So that for me was a big change. I ended up opening my own gym. And on the way, I eventually, about 3.5 years ago, I got my leg amputated, and I finished my book about the same time, my memoirs, and it's been a struggle ever since. I mean, so trying to keep something going and be active and has been a real challenge to me. So that's about it in a nutshell. There's a lot more to tell, I guess, but I don't want to take up too much time here. So there, how's that for a start?
That's good, but tell us a little bit about your lawyer.
Oh, Doug Hyatt? Or
Now, the lawyer that represented you in prison, and what you had to go through when you had people testifying against you.
I did. Well, some of the people that testified against me were the Eugene chapter of the Panther Party. Another was a young Japanese student who, when the heat got on him, and he couldn't hold his mud very long, and so I got sort of framed by. I wasn't framed by. I had one lawyer, for example, back in those days. He said, "Well," he asked me a question. He says, "Why do white people carry guns?" And I said, excuse me. I said, well, I've always had a rifle. Since I was about 15, I'm very familiar with weapons. And I was a member of the ROTC group in college, and I learned to handle certain other weapons. I was a good shot. So that's one reason. It wasn't hard to carry weapons openly as we did in Eugene, just like Aaron was describing elsewhere. Yeah, and even now in our state, it's an open carry state, so it isn't unusual to this day to see people walk around with 6 guns on their head. And, you know, a little bit unusual, but more so nowadays because tensions are high. So,
Yeah.
you know, there you go.
Okay, well, you know, I could talk a little bit about the Young Patriots. And my role was, you know, I went to Chicago when I was about 17 years old, migrated there with a lot of Southern people, Southern white people. There were about 40,000 people that actually had settled in uptown Chicago. Very, very impoverished, poor community, ghetto. As most of you've seen, I think if you've seen the new documentary, it shows some of it, the first Rainbow Coalition. And the Young Patriots started out not really, you know, didn't really have the goal of becoming the Young Patriots. So most of us came out of street gangs or just regular street people, and SDS, Students for Democratic Society, came into the community, and that's where we started learning a lot of our political ideology. But we were already doing some organizing in the community, even to a point where we had organized a march on the local police station for police brutality because the cops were literally, you know, killing people. They're raping women. You know, they were still selling stolen goods out of the police department. And they were busted back in 1959 by the FBI because they would catch people people committing crimes and make them be their own burglar, personal burglar. And so they were busted for that. But anyway, Chicago, for instance, Mayor Daley came up through a gang called the Hamburgs. They call it an athletic association, but it was really a gang that would, you know, that would rough it up with you if they had to, but also supported the politicians. And so that propelled him up to a status of, you know, sheriff, and then state senate, and then mayor, and he used the police department as his own gang. And so it was brutal in any poor community, not only the white community, but any poor community. And he kept all these communities segregated and wouldn't allow, you know, any association at all. And so we had started doing some organizing, and the Peace and Freedom Party ticket out in California was running Eldridge Cleaver as a president of the United States, and they wanted to get a poor white person to run as vice president. And Peggy Terry was a poor white welfare mother who was she was a Klan member at one time, but she was a hell of an organizer now. She got involved with SNCC actually, and then when SNCC said, you know, go organize your own, she came to Uptown and started organizing. But we ran, you know, very young age, you know, 17 through 24 was the age of a group of young guys and girls that ran a presidential campaign. And so that got the attention of, the Black Panthers Party, and we started associating a little bit with them. But then the police, the police came down on us after this police march and actually did murder one of our members afterwards, beat several people and planted drugs in the SDS office and other locations like church offices, and busted a bunch of people. But at the same time, we were treated as as white trash, basically, very poor. There were more people out of a job in uptown community than there were jobs in Chicago. I think it was a 47% unemployment rate. But anyway, it was like total hell. We had an opportunity to either quit or fight. So we decided we'd fight. We called ourselves at that time the Good Fellows, and started supporting organizations in the community, and then eventually became the Young Patriots, and then we eventually became part of the Rainbow Coalition when Bobby Lee of the Black Panther Party met us at a citizens meeting, and that's where we started talking about the association of us working with the Black Panthers. It wasn't always easy. We had some people that dropped out, they couldn't handle it. Panthers had people that dropped out, they couldn't handle it. But it was necessary because that's where we got the committed people. And we just decided that, hey, we're going to go ahead and fight. But anyway, we did, and eventually became part of the Rainbow Coalition. And it was our politics helped get the first black mayor elected in Chicago, Harold Washington. Bobby Rush, who was one of the founders of the Illinois chapter Black Panthers, became, and the Rainbow Coalition became, the state senator running against, and then Barack Obama came to town and ran against him and lost. And so Bobby Rush is still a sitting congressman today, but it helped propel these politics, helped propel Barack Obama all the way up to the White House, although we've never gotten any credit out of it. It's documented in a book called From the Bullet to the Ballot. And so we were targeted like everybody else. We were beaten. We were, jailed. We were, constantly harassed. Everywhere that we went, for our free health clinic, the cops would come in and harass the landlords, and we would be kicked out. Same thing with our Breakfast for Children program. And as you know, because of those Breakfast for Children programs, the Black Panther Party was termed as being a threat to national security. And in a memo, it mentions two organizations associated with them that they recruited. One of them was the Young Patriots, and one of them was the Young Lords, which was a Hispanic organization. But after Brother Fred's assassination, kind of all hell broke loose. COINTELPRO, counterintelligence, came down on us pretty hard. The Chicago police came down on us. They declared war on gangs, stating that we were deceiving the community, at the same time robbing the community. And this was Mayor Daley was not about to let anybody, gain any power. That was until he died. But what happened was, because of the Panthers and the Young Lords and the Patriots, we were able to crack that wall of segregation to where it's at today. And, and so it'd been kept there for years. So that's pretty much what happened with us. A lot of us had to go away for a while, had to go underground, as in other states like the Panthers had to do, and the Patriot Party. The Patriot Party was run by a guy named Preacher Man, who actually there was a split within the organization of the Young Patriot organization in Chicago. And Preacher Man went and started the Patriot Party, and that's where Chuck was involved in. They did some really good things, except it was short-lived. Also, there wasn't really a lot of community support for it. There wasn't a base there for them, except because when they really needed it, it wasn't there, and that's why it was so easy for the cops and the federal government to come in and bust up these organizations. But I have a belief that the Rainbow Coalition could have very well have become, a third party in the whole political system. And I think that's probably what they were afraid of. The government, the state was afraid of, because they were afraid if this was going to happen, they would lose power. And that's what they didn't want to happen. So after Fred Hampton's assassination, our records were sealed, and over at the Chicago Historical Society for 35 years. No one could get to it because they did not want to show that there was association of the rainbow, the people of color getting together. That would have been very bad for them. And so a lot of that has not changed. Still, people of color are continually, being treated and murdered at a higher rate, So we're kind of back where we started from again, except we have a little bit more inroads into the system at this point. And I think, especially with people like Aaron running for Senate, that kind of thing, that's very, very important for us to keep trying to do. And so that's one of the reasons that, we've started North Alabama School for Organizers, is to try to educate to organize, and educate and organize to liberate, along the same lines as some of the Panthers did back in those days. We did, and it's kind of the way for us to continue and offer some type of blueprint. Out of the Young Patriots, there has been Redneck Revolt. There's also another organization now called Rednecks for Black Lives. It's gaining a lot of notoriety, and there's other organizations around the country that were influenced by the Young Patriots. So you never know what a group of young kids can start and what can come out of it. So, I just think that we need to get more and more people organizing, today. And we need to keep it our youth and see if we can keep them involved. Anyway, I think what we can do. Aaron, do you have anything else, or Chuck?
No. Are we going to have questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably would be
That's
helpful.
what I'm going to do. All right. Let's open it up for questions now. Anybody have questions?
I'd like to know what y'all think is the most hopeful movement that's out there right now.
I couldn't hear you, Tom. I'm sorry.
Hopeful movement. What's the most hope?
Yeah, what's the most hopeful movement that you see out there right now in the world?
Well, if I can jump in, I think the movement that started because of the death of George Floyd, I think that is very promising. Mainly because there were so many people. I think it really put a spotlight on what has been happening with black and brown people in America for the last 400 years. And a lot of the history started coming out. A lot of people who did not know a lot of the horrible things that happen to black people on a daily basis began to really get keened in on a lot of things that were happening. So it was great to see so many people coming out in that first month, and they were coming out every day, and it's been a tremendous awakening. Right now, I think the movement has kind of run into a period where they're really aren't sure which direction to go. And I think one of the things that they have to really understand is how important reading is and studying is, and how important having an analysis of what you're dealing with, within your communities or the country as a whole, and really getting down involved in some grassroots organizing and really helping to serve the people, because as we said, that the Black Panther Party and the other movements, the main reason why we existed was for the people, and to serve the people and help to raise the consciousness of the people. And so I think that's what this movement needs to really start focusing on now, is really helping people out, because people are really struggling. People, not just the black community, I think all the communities, all the poor communities are struggling. Even the working class is struggling. And how can we assist these people so that they can continue to be involved in the struggle?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, Aaron. I think there's so many different directions going on now.
Yeah.
People going in so many different directions. Do you think, and when I talk about organizing and people want to know, well, what should we do and how should we work with other organizations? I always talking about the point program, that the Black Panthers had.
Yeah.
And the Young Patriots had, and the Young Lords had, and how we put those point programs together. Therefore we found out what we had in common.
Yeah.
And how we could overlap. And do you think something like that would happen now? Would work now? That's what I think.
Yeah. You're speaking of the 10-point program.
Yeah.
10-point program and platform, and that was what the Black Panther Party worked from. That gave us that was our platform. And I think, first of all, there really isn't an organization. There's a lot of little organizations, but there isn't really an organization that is really leading this movement, and there's no singular leader or leaders, and there's no ideology, there's no platform.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that they need to key in on, is developing a ideology, and a vision of what they want to do. The Black Panther Party had a vision. Our vision was and it was always changing because we read so much and we were taught that nothing stands outside of change. Everything is in a constant state of flux, is what Huey taught. And so we were always changing and always adapting. We never were the same organization that we were 2 years prior. You know, we were always evolving. And I think that's one of the things that young people today have to understand, that things are always evolving, and you always have to be able to change and be able to change, be able to evolve as things are changing to meet, continue moving your program forward.
Yeah. You have questions? Go ahead.
I was struck by what Aaron said about programs to directly help the people. That's what we're trying to do here, that with the automotive free clinic program that we're trying to get off the ground. But I got to say, it's just hard to know where to work. I mean, people's lives are threatened in so many ways. Their power getting turned off, their health care issues, unemployment. I mean, there's just so many things that directly impact people's, poor people's quality of lives. But yet, all of this stuff relates to larger issues that we somehow don't seem to be able to address.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm just trying to work my way through that conundrum and to figure out what do we do? I mean, we can help people on an individual basis, and that's maybe all we can do. But I just wondered what you see is how we can work in a bigger picture.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, you brought up an interesting point. Is I think first of all we got to understand that our number one problem, besides racism, our number one problem is the super predatory capitalist system that keeps us all oppressed, and the tremendous inequality, wealth inequality that exists in America. It's one of the greatest inequalities in the world. And so we always have to keep that at the forefront of our mind, that the biggest issue that we have to confront and change is this super predatory capitalist system. Now, in terms of getting back to organizing, I think, you have to maybe focus on, what is the most pressing issue that people are being faced with at any given moment. And address that issue. But like you said, there are so many other issues, and as our economic crisis gets worse, it just keeps, more problems keep popping up. But we had a saying in the party that practice is a criteria for truth. So I think the main thing is doing something. Doing something. That's the most important thing, is making that first step, and creating a program that is affecting people, and because if we get caught up with trying to address everything that happens, everything that's popping up, we're going to be ineffective. So we got to focus on one thing, the most important thing, and try to develop that and make that a real good, successful program, so that we can attract more volunteers and more people to come in. As we attract more volunteers and more people that want to help, then we can, address the next program that is the most pressing issue in the community.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. It's kind of like a snowball strategy. Something rolling and see what sticks to it, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Chuck.
Okay, I'm here. I've had a hard time staying involved with everybody. Let alone my leg is really given me everything I talk about lately is what's going on with my health and so on. I'm 78 years old, and this having one leg means there's certain things I'll never do again. I mean, I just don't think I will. I mean, everybody says, oh, you can do it if you put your mind to it. I don't know. I mean, I've tried to do some things from where I live in this rural community, and some things haven't worked out so well. But what I do notice is that my little trailer house community, that's where I can see good people doing and trying to help each other. So it is true that if you can do nothing else, be a good neighbor. Try to help out and help. Talk to people straight. I live in a very small community with now that this COVID crisis is the school lives right down the street from me, and I don't know how the hell they're doing it. I'm glad I'm not out in the community very much. This little area, people up here, do they wear their masks? Not very much. It's so and so, and it's kind of a joke to most people. But I wear mine, okay, just so you know, because I think that's the only thing we can do. That's one of those little things that we can do. And if we can't do other things, if we can't go to anywhere else and go to football games and hang out and go to bars, I mean, you have to know somebody who's been made sick by all this contact, and it's so anyway. For me right now, I'm just doing the best I can. I'm glad I'm part of this this team. I've known Aaron and Hi a long time, and I hear from other friends and comrades too. I talked to Billy X, Jennings, and others in the party that are still busy doing things, whatever it is. Serve the people is exactly what we do. And I don't know how else to call it. So if it's not giving out free food, it's making sure somebody doesn't get hurt if they're in danger.
But do you have any suggestions, Chuck, for the young activists?
Well, I don't have as many suggestions as I used to. I've been invited to a couple groups that are studying Marxism only, and I think, I don't. I was always a practice before theory person. I was a scientist myself. I really understood science. I have a strong grasp of it, and so when I hear people saying, "Come and join in this Zoom conference with we're going to study Marxism," and I think that isn't what I really want to do. If I could get people to come out and talk to me about what we might do out here, I mean, there's a little room to organize in this little community. In Colville and Spokane, there's more action, but I think just if you don't do something after when you go out in the street and march, my God, I mean, you have to figure out what it is you're going to do that's going to be helpful, and I don't know. I'm just kind of.
Oh, you know, Chuck. Don't say you don't know. You know, man.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
Well, yeah, thanks, Aaron. But it's been a long haul for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how in the hell I can even organize any young people that well here, other than a few people at a time, and trying to get my book worked on. I haven't been able to go anywhere. I guess it's the thing to do. I know what to do. I stay home and stay safe, and I'm not trying to get sick.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm doing here, folks. So I don't know. I there I go. I do know. You're right.
You know, you got lots of history and experience.
I do, Aaron.
You know, all that stuff you did with that November coalition, that was awesome. That was
Well, that was a big deal. I mean, I wrote in my book about the coalition. I used to be an organizer and an editor with the November Coalition, anti-drug war, close the prisons group. So, and my wife and I at that time toured the nation. We went all over the country. We drove here and there. I met all kinds of people. I ran into Aaron. We reunited in New Orleans in one time, and got started again together. And then Aaron was asked to join the board of directors, and he became a strong member. And the coalition became the essence of grassroots organizing, because we had chapters all over the country, many cities, and is what we did. And we would go around the country, and people would say, "What do we do locally? What do we do?" I said, "Well, what are you doing to help each other and get started? And if you got a handful of people, then that's a good start. Don't give up, never give up." So I haven't gotten to that point either. I don't. I've said to myself many times as I explore my own condition, I said, Chuck, what are you going to do? Do what Aaron says. I've listened to you a lot, Aaron, over the years, and if anything, we've become brothers in all kinds of different ways. I was part of your campaign for the Green Party, and when you ran for office against Senator
Cantwell.
Cantwell, yes. And I remember back then, you were always willing to stick your neck out, very much so. And I, if it wasn't for me getting this. I mean, I tried to go to some places. I went to the Seattle Panther Party reunion. That's where we saw each other. And I got it. I missed getting the chance to see Danny Glover, but I saw him in a really good cowboy movie lately. And Silverado. It's a really good movie. And it was, everybody's. And people worry about guns so much, and I think, I'm glad we weren't to pack guns, because now look at what's happening in Portland. Proud Boys, and these cats that are scaring people. But I'm glad that we did, and unfortunately we had major run-ins with the police, and that's how it went for me, and everything did change for a long time. So,
can I touch on one thing? How you mentioned the concept of a third party, and how you thought that was possibly seen as such a threat as what caused COINTELPRO to come down on y'all in Chicago. And Chuck just mentioned the Green Party. Do any of y'all think that trying to make a viable third party is something that we should be even considering? I mean, anytime I talk about a third party around here, everybody just like, Lacey, what are you thinking? How that possibly work? That seems to me like the only way that we could get any leverage on this situation.
well, I don't know. The success of third parties hasn't been so great, I guess, in some ways. But there's a lot of forces that have made third parties not very popular as they should be. I mean, I remember people throw on, Trump likes to say socialism this and socialism this, and oh God, you know, he's picking on Biden, and I think, you know, we were right too. The idea that we were a third party back in those days is strong evidence how what we had become. So I still think I mean everybody nowadays says that we have two candidates only. I think no, there's several others on the ballot actually, Green Party candidates, and I think, you know, I'm not a big. I didn't get to vote until I was, you know, I got married at 17. I couldn't vote until I was 21 back then, and first person I ever voted for was a Democrat, Lyndon Johnson. And I went to prison, couldn't vote there anymore. So I don't know. You know, if we're going to get stuck with one or two candidates, it looks like we will. But I may still decide. Oh, well, I have the right to vote my conscience, whatever I feel. So you can do whatever you want, folks. That's what it's all about. So
Yeah.
Well, if I may jump in, I think right now we have to get Trump out. That's the most pressing thing right now, is to get Trump out. If we can be successful with that, whether we're successful with that or not, I think we should never stop or give up on trying to create a third party, because the Democratic Party and the Republican Party have been holding us hostage for the last, you know, since the beginning.
oh, that's right.
And we, you know, other countries have third parties and fourth parties. Why can't we? You know, and as Chuck mentioned, historically, it is not something that we've been able to achieve. But that doesn't mean that at some point we can't eventually achieve that. And I don't think we could never give up on that unless we just completely take over the Democratic Party and completely transform it and turn it into a real people's party. But until then, I think we should always keep the idea of a third party, you know, in our consciousness.
I think so.
Yes.
Um,
Well, and I'm still a strong believer in revolution too. So, you know, I think at some point, I think everything's going to fall, and we're going to have to be ready for it when it does fall. You know, and might not be in my lifetime, but I really think that if these politics, the political system, the capitalist system keeps going the way it's going, and the oppressive system, there won't be any other choice but a revolution. And I would hope that there's a third party that would come on before that, you know, that would make a difference.
well, yeah, I like the Vanguard Party.
Yes.
Something that can show us the way, create the vision, and
Like the Black Panther Party, like the Black Panther Party did.
Yeah, exactly.
Party.
Yeah. But it just takes people recognizing what their commonalities are and working together, you know, toward a certain goal. And that's kind of hard to do right now. But I think with more and more of what Trump is doing, it's pushing people more and more that way, I would hope, you know, where, you know, we can start forming more coalitions and alliances, you know, even in the, you know, the grassroots communities. And I think if we get down to the grassroots communities, that's really where it's going to all start, you know, with the self-determination of the community. But that's where I'm at, and that's one of the things that I try to talk about in the school here, North Alabama School for Organizers, because we see so many organizations just falling apart because they lose their vision. But if you get enough people together that have the same vision, or at least the visions that's that's in common, I think you can have a powerful organization, like the Rainbow Coalition and others. Reggie, did that answer your question, buddy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like at this
What
point,
Aaron said, and Aaron and Chuck, and
everything we could to try to work with the existing political parties, and we keep getting snuffed out, shoved to the back of the bus, whatever. And I don't know what else we can try politically. I mean, we're all just kind of given up on the whole political thing at all, because there's, I mean, we've tried fussing with politicians, and that really hasn't gotten us anywhere. And so basically, we've all just retreated back to, well, what can we do? Like we were saying earlier, well, we can help people get their cars fixed so they can stay on the road and go to the doctor and the grocery store, because we don't have any mass transportation available or any kind of public programs to help with that. And we can help people try to learn to grow their own food. And maybe somehow all those little efforts can be put together, but it's just really frustrating that we can't get any political traction.
Yeah. Well, that's some good stuff. What you're talking about, fixing people's cars, man, that is really a great idea, and that is so needed all over. So I mean, you guys need to be patting yourselves on the back just for doing that.
Well, it's a great little program. We're new, but it's being very well received in the community. We've managed to raise a few $1,000 somehow, just from small donations. We got no institutional backing at this point, but we hope to. I mean, that's our goal. Is we know it's a great idea. People desperately need it.
Yeah.
Our small resources are stretched to the max at this point, but we're hoping that this is something that will catch on, and before long. Right now we're only able to operate in Montgomery because that's where our technician and our lead organizer is, but we're hoping that it'll slowly spread all over the place, because like to say, this is desperately needed and something that nobody really is addressing. So
right, yeah.
Do you remember back in the 60s in Portland, at least, there was a group, mechanics garage that did. You could take your car in there and work on it yourself, and there would be somebody around to help talk to you whatever you were doing. And there was also another an old book that I don't even know if it's around anymore. It's called The Idiot's Guide to VW Repair, and it kind of does the same thing. It gets people to trying to fix their cars. I mean, nowadays cars are way computer. Too savvy for most people, but some of the things go on around here because I have a car, I have a neighbor that, and it's one of those things that I can't fix myself. I can't get out and do my own damn car anymore. So this neighbor comes and helps me, and that's to me this is basic socialism. And if you do it in good favor and don't ask a bunch of money, yay.
Hey, Chuck, why don't you talk about some of the programs you had in Eugene?
Well, we had various programs. We taught a course called Racism in American Culture. I was a student back then, working on my PhD, and I was also had met Ray Eglin. Ray Eglin was a friend of mine, and we would do things together a lot. We taught these classes together, and we would take Panthers and mostly Panthers out into the woods and shoot deer occasionally, and we weren't as handy with weapons as we should have been. We were probably it was but anyway, we would do that and try to train and try to get people to worked together on different things. So we had a free tool program going, and we ended up we cut firewood for older people, and we raided the fish hatchery and got fish and distributed fish in the community. So we were Robin Hoods in a real sense, and that's in those early days, and we looked out for each other because I got to know Panthers in Eugene. Some of them have long gone. Howard and Tommy Anderson. They changed their names, Jaja. But they're both dead. Everybody's dead. So, but I look around. I think, God damn it, Chuck, you got to live a few more years, and just contribute the best you can. And I noticed that back in the days when I was running for mayor, when I had first grown my beard out, and I was remarried. I married an African American woman with her kids, and we started a whole new rainbow family right there. So, but I remember once running. I ran for mayor of Eugene in 1968. And that was a program to try to bring some humanity into these two-party elites, the Democrats and Republicans. So I didn't have any party. I was just a hippie. I dressed up. I dressed up like a hippie. And but back then I noticed that one of the Democratic Party members didn't want me to take votes away from the other guy. So I found out right away back then what that meant when the way they operate there. I didn't do that, of course, and they didn't win the election, but it was a strong reminder that what can happen. They don't want you to have a similar program. So, and I don't know what else. Well, you know, we were somewhat short-lived. We had to defend ourselves. We carried arms back when we were getting shot at pretty regular in the Eugene campus area, and so eventually that led to my arrest and a 10-year sentence.
You had a free venison program, right?
Yeah, it was a free venison program. Yeah, I used to. It's funny you remember all that, Eric, because you know we had many guns. I mean, I don't know how many guns we back then. We just stocked up on everything. So we would go out in the woods, and my wife and I would go on. I had a big long gun. And we would travel to the logging roads in the back country, and if I saw a deer, I would have a flashlight, and I would shoot from the car. I mean, we were poachers, for damn sure, but we would take it back, and I still remembered how to dress out an animal, a deer, or I didn't remember so much. I was a slaughterhouse worker for a long time, but I didn't remember all those things. But it was a time when we were. I really fancied myself as a Robin Hood to the max, and we would just distribute food everywhere. And back in those days, I even tried to homeschool my kids. And that worked about 3 days. That was too crazy. So it's I sympathize with what parents are going through now with this COVID-19. But because I know how hard that is to try to homeschool your kids. You're damn right. So anyway, that was a lot of different things there. When I went to prison in McNeil Island, I didn't miss a beat. It was hot times. Everything was really cooking back then. And so when a man got killed one day by a knife attack, we filed a major suit and eventually shut the prison down for a while. There was a major disruption in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And of course, that got me moved to Marion, where I did some more time. I ended up doing about 7 years in federal prisons, federal and state prisons. So since I got out, I did other things too in my life. That's what an Odyssey is.
Chuck, did you feel like you were a prisoner?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I hadn't done anything. Well, I mean, it was a sawed-off shotgun, 1/4 inch too short, and I didn't have a record, and I didn't have it in my possession. It was a statutory possession. It was in the trunk of a car. I was traveling in the car, and they stopped me. So when they gave me a 10-year sentence, the judge gave me a 10-year sentence. That was we eventually won that case, and they let me out after about 19 months, and I couldn't go back to school anymore. I wanted to work in the Breakfast for Children program. I wanted to work with Kent Ford and Raymond Joe in Portland on the medical clinic. We named the medical clinic the Fred Hampton Medical Clinic. And I also volunteered in Portland as a coach for kids in a poor area of Portland, where they didn't have a coach, and we never won a game, but we played our ass off. But yeah, well, it's good to laugh for damn sure. I've never lost my sense of humor.
All right. Well, thanks, Chuck. When you and I get on the phone, we talk for hours about that kind of stuff, and it's just
You do.
impressive, and but everything that you've done and everything that Aaron's done. Boy, we really appreciate it, and I know it's past time here, but if anybody needs to leave, they can leave.
Well, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to leave.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you very much, and good seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Good to see you
Okay.
too, man.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Fireside Chats is a production of North Alabama School for Organizers. NASO seeks to empower communities through intersectional education and training. More information, including upcoming classes, at naso.network. Thank you for joining us for Fireside Chats.